G'day guys, and welcome back to another Cinema 4D and After Effects tutorial. This will mainly be After Effects using Element 3D, and I'll kind of show you the result we're going to get. So this is what we're going to create, a simple kind of cool transition between one object and another. In this example I've used the letters A and B, but this could be literally whatever you want. Logo transitioning to text, but I found it works best with kind of similar sized objects like these characters here. So without further ado, let's begin. And we're going to begin in Cinema 4D. We're going to create a MoText object. Going to add some fillet caps of a radius of 1, steps of 1. Then in the object mode we're going to make the depth something like 50, line it to the middle, use a font like Arial Black, and make the letter A. So we have the first letter here, and we'll just duplicate it by dragging, holding Control, and type B. So now we have the letters A and the letter B, and we need to break it up. For this we're going to use a free plugin called Chudleigh. So we'll just load it up here, and you can use as many pieces as you want. I'll use, well in my example I used 40, in this one I'll use 80. So with the letter A selected, just click break now, and it'll break our object up into 80 different pieces. Click the letter B and click break now, and it'll do the same for the second letter. Right then, so now what we want to do is just load up, scroll down and select all the letters for the letter A, group them, name this A, and delete the fracture object, and do the same for the B, and call this B, drag it out and delete that fracture object. So now we have nulls with the letters A and B in, and we have 4 materials here which we need to rename. So this is, I believe, can I select? This is for the letter B and this is for the letter A. So we'll call this one, if you just double click down here, B underscore in, B underscore out. You need to keep the names separate, and I normally keep colors separate as well. For when you bring it into Element, everything is fine. So A in and A out. And we'll just color this. So we've got a red, a kind of blue, a sort of greeny yellow, and there we go, 4 different colors. And now we can just click save. I'll put it here under scene underscore tutorial. As you can see, I have tested this before, just to make sure everything works fine, and then we can start in After Effects. So I'll make a new composition, which is just 1280 by 720. I will make a new solid, call this element, and we'll also need a camera. And if we right click on the camera, go down to camera, create orbit null, we'll use this as the camera control. So this is all we need in our scene, really. So with the element layer selected, just right click anywhere here, Video Copilot, Element. Of course you'll need to have this plugin in order to follow the tutorial, otherwise it just won't work. So under Scene Setup, we'll go to Import and import our scene. And as you can see here, we have the 4 materials, and what we want to do is separate these out. So I'm going to unselect the B layer. So now this is only the letter A and then duplicate model and pretty much reverse it, so now this is only the letter B. And we're just going to unselect 1 and put it on 2. And on this one as well, I'm going to flip the x-axis, so when we rotate the camera, this will appear the correct way round, even though the letter A can be seen from either side as it's symmetrical. If you're doing this with logos, you need to flip whatever one the second one is round. And we're also just going to change the texture mapping on both the A and B to box preserve aspect ratio. So now we want to just drag on a texture for the inside, so I'm going to use this illuminated texture on the in and drag that to the B in as well. So now we have a texture here, and I'm going to make the diffuse color a kind of ready color, so something like this, and right click, copy, go down to the illumination and paste it there as well. And I'm just going to do the same for the other letter as well. So we have the inside color. If I uncheck that, this is the inside of our object, which is this color here, and the outside is this color, which we're going to change. I'm using the Pro shaders here and just going to drag on the outside here to both objects as well. Next, we're just going to change the environment. Of course, this can be any texture, anything you want, but this is what I'll be using in the tutorial. And when we click OK, we have this kind of mess here. So I'm just going to press C on the camera with the camera selected, and you can see we get all these tools out. And if we just click and drag, we can just scale it down a little bit. Next, because importing Cinema 4D files, they come in kind of flipped, we're going to go to World Transform, Rotation, or World Rotation, and on the Y rotation we're just going to type in 180, and that will flip our scene round. So next we want to go into Group 1, go to Multi-Object under Particle Look and just enable it. And we want to do the same for Group 2, like so. Now when we go into the animation engine here and click Enable, instantly it'll make it look like Group 2 disappears, but if we just flick through the animation, you can see we get this kind of crumpled look, which is pretty much what we want already. I used shape order, I think it is, or radial, and this just makes it look a bit cooler. So you could do something like this, and yeah, it already looks pretty cool. So we'll go to 2 seconds in, make a keyframe on the animation, go to 3 seconds in and drag it up to 100. So now we have this animation playing through. Of course we can change this, so we could have not uniform but maybe random, hoping it doesn't crash on me. So now we got this animation. You can always make it dual as well, so we can try shape order with it, and I'm happy with this. Of course you can play around with this to your heart's content, so you get something perfect, but for tutorial purposes this is fine. So next we want the kind of camera sweeping round as this happens. So on 2 seconds here we just close this off. Under the camera controls we'll just press R to bring this up. I believe it's a Y rotation, so I'll make a keyframe on the 2 seconds, and on the 3 seconds we'll make it 180. So now we get this very simple animation, and if we press U to bring up all the keyframes, we'll just highlight them and press F9. If you're on a Mac and all your keyboard shortcuts are there, you can press the FN button with F9 as well, and that will allow you to use the buttons there to their normal functions. And what this does is just kind of eases it in and out, so we get the slow to fast movement, which if we enable motion blur by using this part here and enabling it here as well, we get this really nice realistic motion blur as it spins round and transforms. If you want more motion blur, you can right click here, go to composition settings, advanced, and under shutter angle we can increase this to like 500, or if we want less we could decrease it to something like 140. All depends. As Element 3D doesn't do kind of real transitions, motion blur really helps to kind of fake the transition. So you can see here it blends really nicely, and because we're using illumination, we can go to render settings, glow, and enable glow, maybe lower the intensity down a little bit. And so now when it breaks up, we get this pretty sweet glow, which then disappears when it comes together again. We can enable ambient occlusion and also add some nice dark dramatic lighting to the scene, which we can play around with until we get something we like. Ooh, maybe a bit too bright, so something like 40. So now we have this pretty cool, nice specular on the side. As Element also works with lights in my previous scene, I also added this light from the top, which kind of just gave it a bit of a boost here. If I turn it up, you can see this light here kind of shines on the top of the logo. But yeah, you can see it's very simple, very easy to do. You can try and integrate this into a 3D scene if you wanted. Element's quite good at rendering out kind of landscapes as well. So you can have landscapes, you could have this spinning on the spot. You can integrate this with something like track code form. If I just throw that in there and make the base size something like 2000. Enable motion blur for it as well. And we'll make this something like 20, 20, 20. And change the particle size. I think it needs to be a bit bigger for you to see the particles kind of spinning around crazily. But yeah, you can see here as it spins round, all the particles will spin with it. Obviously this is a terrible example of the actual particles kind of floating around. You can see everything works perfectly with it, and if I trim the composition to something like there, we can see how this looks. Of course, maybe we can't see how it looks as my computer is being taken up by screen recording, but yeah, this is the basics of the tutorial. If you wish to do anything with it, then feel free. Everything works perfectly. You can have depth of field, more movements. To add like a third layer, what you'd have to do is when it stops spinning, you would change this from, well, make a keyframe Next frame, just make it group 2 to group 3 or whatever, and then it'll transition to the next one with more keyframes. And of course, it's entirely up to you. You can break up different logos to create kind of sponsorships or anything really, anything you like. Go crazy. If you do use it, then feel free to post it as a video response. I always like seeing what you guys create following these tutorials, as it kind of shows that they're helpful and it kind of makes me want to do more. So if you have any ideas for tutorials, then feel free to post some. But yeah, this has been Ian, and have a great day.